Today I'm outlining applique. This is a huge quilt with a ton of applique all over it. So this is slow, tedious work, but so well worth it. Now, sometimes this just goes with no problem. Other days it's a real struggle. And throughout this quilt so far, it's not been the easiest going, but that just means I have to slow down and be really careful. So let's see how it's going to go right now. And so one of the things I'm doing on places of these, these are alligators, okay? So on some of the other animals, and it's full of animals, like it's too big. Some of the pieces are too big to leave unquilted. And what I'm doing is outlining the print. And I found years ago it was easier to do this if I thought of it as just not quilting, but just kind of tracing around all the shapes. I don't know why that made a big difference, but it did. I'm outlining his legs to give those pieces some definition. So that went pretty well. I don't aim for perfection because I've never achieved it yet, so why would I start now? Perfection isn't what's needed. Really good is what's needed. And there's times when it goes really bad, and that's when I rip it out and do it over again. So that's a good look at that. And just to show you what these animals look like face up. Okay, that's where we're going. This is a really whimsical quilt, and I love her fabric choices. And this is really good applique. Okay, onward. Hello, Susan Corbett, custom machine quilter here. So this is what I've got on the machine right now. It's a great big bed quilt full of all the applique in the world. So here's a look at what's been happening. There's a lot of applique with all these irregular shapes all over the place. And there's a whole lot of circles. So circles became a dominant theme here. Now, since this fabric already has a lot of lines in it and there's so much going on in this quilt already, I just went for a linear pattern meander there. More hexes. So I did this really simple flower in every single one. And then for the background, I added more little flower petals with a swirl in between. And that's going pretty quickly. As usual, in frames, I like to use a contrasting thread. It gives you one more thing for the eye to delight upon. So I chose that pink color for here. All right, the house blocks I will get to later because that's going to require a thread change. And because I've been dragging my feet on exactly what to put in there. So what I want to show today is the background quilting. I quilt intuitively, and I make it up as I go along. So I might have a plan at the beginning, but there's what I plan and then there's what really happens. So how this has gone is I'm putting feathers in the spaces on either end of the house rooftops, and then going for whatever I can think of to fill in the rest. And they're all different. So a bunch of circles and swirls and a whole lot of echo is what's happening there. And here is the next block that I'm about to quilt. So we'll look at that process in real time. I don't know what I'm going to do in there, so we'll just have to find out.
So I've moved on to quilting the houses, and here is how that is looking. I think it looks really good. I searched and searched and searched for motifs. The problem with that is that this one is practically a rectangle with rounded edges at the top. So most block designs are based on squares or circles. And that's kind of how I ended up with this design, which I love. It is from this book that I found years and years ago, one of my favorites. The premise of this book is that a given quilt is made 4 times and quilted 4 different ways. It's just got all kinds of great stuff in it. And so here is the paper pattern, which I have adapted. I didn't follow the pattern. I am a freehander, so I just took off and started quilting. This is the top border. You can't really tell what I quilted here. I just meandered around the print with a dark thread.
let's have a look at what happened inside the animals. I chose to outline the print in the big animal pieces that were too big to leave unquilted. Not every little thing, just part of it, just to tack it down. And here, this is a really good one too. I love this elephant. I just outlined that big flower and a little bit in here, and then I quilted in that ear so it wouldn't be loose. See here, I outlined the print just a little bit, just like in 3 or 4 places on that big rhino. I wasn't sure what to do in this patch, so those little hexies are pretty small, so I just did one line down the middle, kept it simple. Every piece of applique was kind of a judgment call whether to quilt there or not. This I left blank. It's nice and puffy. This is the lower border. Here I outlined those circles, and here I quilted in some of the zigzags of that print. I used only a couple different color threads in this quilt, except there were a few couple exceptions, and this was one of them. I loaded some really murky purple for some of the really dark patches, and I quilted right around the edge to define those pieces. I think that looks really good. Otherwise, it would just be this big blob. So defining the edges is a really important thing. And here's the background quilting in a whole bunch of these blocks. And that big feather on the houses. This quilt is massive, and I don't think I can get you a whole shot. Not a good one anyway. This is one of the side borders on the right of this 92 by 92 quilt.
And here is the left border.